Okay, well, I guess this wouldn't be a YouTube channel if I didn't do a little shop tour for you all. Um, I know people like to watch those, and people are interested in what kind of test equipment everybody has. So I thought I'd take the time to just give you the nickel tour of my very, very small shop. Um, Basically, I do electronics every day, working on x-ray equipment and so forth. So I do a lot of that stuff out in the field. So this is just kind of a little hobby bench that I've put together from stuff that I've been collecting since I was 9 years old. So pretty much my whole life, um, I've enjoyed electronics. So I thought I'd just kind of go through some of the things that I have here and what I use, and uh, if you're interested in them, and then maybe give you a little introduction onto our next little project that we're going to start working on here on our next series. All right, so let's back up a little bit. I'll show you how tiny this is. And there you go. So this is kind of in the basement, and I've just made like a little galley. If you look over here, it's my stairway coming from the upstairs that I made. A little fireplace for the winter time and some storage. And I keep a B&K Model 415, and it's a television sweep marker generator for doing TV alignments. I don't work with this a whole lot. I don't do a lot of TV work, but got a really good deal on it, so I thought I'd get it. A couple miscellaneous things, a tube amp that I built, big one, got a little preamp, and pretty much lots and lots of storage bins, all kinds of miscellaneous components. First piece of test equipment we run into here is a Heathkit TT1 mutual conductance tube tester, and I'm not going to dig it out. You can look them up online. It's totally restored. I spent almost a month rebuilding it. It looks brand new, works brand new. And also a little Superior Instruments emissions tube tester. I use this thing for everything. It really works for most of what I do. Here is a ICO. What is that, a 239? 232. There you can see it. All right. Vacuum tube voltmeter. It was brand new in the box as a kit, and I just bought it maybe within the last 5 or 10 years, and I built it. And so it is literally new old stock. It's brand new. Works great. Up here's a bunch of miscellaneous fuses and just components and things. An old ultrasound probe from an ultrasound unit. Some old sound brains, from, for keyboards, musical keyboards. Okay, if we move over here, here's my wire storage. Just keep miscellaneous wire and all that down here, cables. You can see RCAs, BNCs, RJ11s, Ethernet, all that. Power cords down there. Here's something pretty neat. Took off of an old x-ray machine. It is a 5 and 12 volt power supply. And I'm just going to show you this real quick. Can you see that? I don't know if I'm focusing on it or not, but this sucker's rated 220 amps at 5 volts. Talk about the ultimate USB power supply. So it works. The only problem is it runs on 240 volts AC, so I got to step up, use a step-up transformer, and it dims the lights when it powers up. But I'll do something with it someday. They use these in some of the digital computers from the old x-ray machines. Alright, up here I have a fully restored Sencor SG165. When I got this, the power supply was bad on it, and I completely built a totally new power supply in it. Instead of transistors, I used the 7800 series voltage regulators, It works really well. It's really stable. And I had to build probes for it. And but it works good. I use it for FM alignments and so forth. Here I have a couple of grid dip meters. I don't use them very much. And they're brand new in a box. I don't use them too much, like I said. Desoldering tool, my Hakko FR300. And all kinds of test cords and cables and oscilloscope probes and all kinds of things. All my RF adapters, different kinds that I've made for different radio alignments over the years, different things. Little ESR meter, and a really nice LCR meter with with the 4-wire ohms. Okay, I got this online. Little digital multimeter, just miscellaneous with what everybody has. I have a fume extractor for soldering that I use when I'm doing a lot of soldering, and a little Dremel drill press for drilling out PC boards, and this little table saw thingy, if I can get this out of the way, you can see. And I use that for cutting circuit board, PC board material. It throws a lot of dust though, and I don't like to use it without a vacuum. And all my Dremel stuff back there. As you can see, this is all kinds of stuff here. LEDs and little semiconductors, chips and so forth. Capacitors, and more capacitors. Just tons and tons of them. More capacitors up here. You can never have too many caps, I guess. And hardware, screws, so forth. Crimps, standoffs, computer screws for computers, little rubber feet, just miscellaneous grommets and mounts for old radios, stuff like that. Connectors and adapters, more adapters, all kinds of adapters, BNC connectors, dial cord, little laser modules I picked up, rubber grommets, just stuff like that. If you come around to here, lots of miscellaneous things, little through-hole inductors, a wall full of Zener diodes, every kind, and SCRs, potentiometers. This is my resistor rack here. Just all kinds of different resistors of different values all arranged here. And my transistors and diodes. Okay, so I keep a few of those around. Can't keep everything, but it's what I have. All my chemicals, spray, whatnot. And I'm hitting the zoom here on you. Sorry about the shaky camera. All right. And when we come around to the main bench, this is where it all happens. So we'll work from left to right. Okay. So my first thing up here at the top is my 2465 Tektronix. It's a 400 megahertz scope, 4-channel, really nice. It does have a problem. It does have the counter timer module option, but it throws an error code. It still works just fine, but it throws an error code on boot up. I'm gonna have to send it out and get it repaired, or find the part and repair it myself. I just don't want to go through all the calibration and everything because I don't do it, and it's really involved and time consuming. The next thing down here is my HP 8657A signal generator. This is pretty much the go-to signal generator I use for radio alignment and IF alignment, things like that. Okay, you've seen it many times in my videos. Here's a very inexpensive but useful multimeter, and the reason I like it, and it's just permanently set to this, is it can read AC and DC true RMS at the same time and frequency. And I really like that. When you're looking at like speaker output and so forth, works really well because it'll read the frequency to you, it'll tell you the DC equivalent, and it'll tell you the AC true RMS voltage. Alright, next here I showed you on my last video series is my 2467, which is very similar to the 2465, except it has the Bright Eye screen on it. Okay, and this one's perfect. It works good. It's a low hours unit. Bunch of probes, test sockets for checking bias on tubes. A couple of those that I use. A little dummy load 8 ohm 100 watt 2-channel heat with heatsink and fan forced cooling that I use. I can use that, and you hook your scope probes across there just to measure output of amps. If we move down here, I have some multimeters. I have this little cheapy analog one. Just got a, one of those cheap Amazon.com or eBay or whatever. My breadboard that I use for breadboarding little projects. So I'm testing things out. A couple of cheap little meters here. And then my Fluke 187. You've seen that in videos. And down here is my HP 8594E, and this is not only a spectrum analyzer, but it does have the tracking generator, and it's good from 9 kilohertz all the way up to 2.9 gigahertz. So it's a great little machine. It has a built-in oven for the oscillator, so it's very stable, very accurate. It's been fully calibrated. Beautiful little machine. Moving right along, and this is a oscilloscope that I kind of retired out of service. I used for quite a while, for about 10 years out in the field. It's a 300 megahertz Tektronix TDS 2032 digital phosphor oscilloscope. These are very expensive, and really for what I'm doing out in the field, capturing little waveforms and things, it was kind of overkill, and I really didn't want to ruin it. It serves a lot better purpose here on the bench, and I don't even use it unless I really need the functions, the math and so forth that these do, because they're so expensive. So I try to take good care of it. But it's a 300 megahertz as opposed to the 400 of these, and quite frankly, I like looking at the analog CRT rather than the digital phosphor. It just looks clearer to me, to my bad eyes. Alright, moving right along is a very nice piece of test equipment, and this is a RCA WR50B RF signal generator. And the thing I like about it is it will do a sweep of 10.7 megacycles and 455 kilocycles. So you can actually put a sweep signal on the IF of a tuner, and really nice, and it's crystal controlled for that. I really like it. And then it's also just a basic, signal generator. Works pretty well. Moving up, I have a Keithley 2015 digital multimeter. It'll do 4-wire resistance, everything that a normal multimeter does. But the one thing this does that others don't is it has a distortion meter. So you actually have a coax, which is hiding back here. You see it right there is the coax. Okay, I can pull that out. I can feed a 1 kilohertz tone into something and then read it back into here, and it will actually calculate the total harmonic distortion of your amplifier. So it's a really neat thing. I don't have room on my bench for a dedicated distortion meter, and I also just didn't want to spend the money on one. So this is a good substitute. Works really well. I use this a lot. It's very accurate, very fast response time. It's a good meter. Okay. Dummy load, watt meter, SWR meter, all built into one, MFJ 267. And this is for working on CBs or working on transmitters, transceivers, and so forth. So very handy piece of equipment. Up here is just an old audio generator that I use just for generating audio at low frequency. And then you come up here to my power supply section, and I have a little 3 amp that I use to power some lamps and some other different things. And then I have my programmable power supply, which works pretty well. These ones will do 30 volts plus and minus, plus a 5 volt. And it's all programmable. You can program it for constant voltage, constant current, so forth. Very nice power supply. Here's one that also will do constant current, constant voltage, but it just uses just regular pots, rotary knobs. And it'll also do 230 volt supplies at 3 amps or 5 amps, something like that, plus the 5 volt. So pretty set for power supplies. Down here is my Rigol 4162 dual channel signal generator, and this is an arbitrary waveform generator. What that means is you can actually program any waveform you can dream of. This even has USB input and so forth. You can program it and control it from a computer, from a PC. You've seen it many times when I test stereos. It's really nice because I can generate a right and left channel signal separately, and I can match them very accurately and test it very accurately with my scope. It's very handy for all that sort of thing. And it also serves, it's good for up to 160 megahertz, so it's very good RF generator too. So very useful. What's a bench without a VTVM? So I have 2 of them up here. I have an RCA Voltomus WV77, and I like that because it has regular inputs for regular standard probes. It has a DC input and then an AC and ohm input, and I don't have to have the probe with the little switch on it. So I like this one for that reason. Then I also have an RCA Senior Voltomist, which has the traditional probe with the switch on it, as you can see. And that comes in handy once in a while. I don't use them a whole lot anymore, but sometimes I do when it comes to aligning old AM radios and so forth. I have an MFJ antenna analyzer. You can see that here if I move some stuff out of the way. And this one's not the top of the line one. It's good. It'll do into VHF pretty good, but not UHF. But it's good for checking like HF, ham radio, and CB antennas. So it's a pretty good antenna analyzer. Comes in handy for trimming up a dipole or something. Over here I have a Sencor LC53, and this is another capacitor and inductor analyzer, and very good for checking capacitors. It'll check leakage, it'll apply up to 600 volts on it. Very good little tester. They're still really expensive, but you can find them online. Okay. Down here's my B&K 1655, and of course that is not only is it a Variac, but it is also, and it has current and voltage metering. It also has a built-in leakage meter, so you can check deep leakage on your grounds, and it is an isolation transformer, so it completely isolates the device you're working on that's connected to it to your regular outlets. And I have that coming down into this little convenience outlet here. I didn't want to wear out these plugs. They're already getting loose as they are. So we plug into here. As you can see, I put a little sign on it to remind us. And that's what we bring things up on the Variac. If we move over to here, up here I have my monitor for my computer. And I use that for looking at schematics and so forth. Have a clock to know how much trouble I'm in with my wife for being down here so long. And I have an ICO 950 capacitor checker which that's really common. Everybody has these. They work really well, especially for looking at leakage. This one was brand new, still sealed in the box. I bought it off of an old radio shop that was going out of business. They had this and that 232 on a back shelf that they had forgotten about it. So I picked them up for a song and dance. So they're actually brand new. Well, at least when I bought them, they were brand new. And I've kept them that way. Down here's another little isolation transformer with a kilowatt on it. And that's for small radios to power up, and I can kind of monitor things. Down here is my little dim bulb tester connected to this outlet, and as you can see, it has limit and full, and it connects to this bulb here. And really all you can do with it is you flip this switch into limit, and it just basically throws this bulb in series with whatever's plugged into this outlet, and it's fuse protected as well, and it allows you to limit, so you don't short out a radio that's got a bad capacitor or something. So I use that. If you look way down in the back there, I don't know if you could see it on the floor, there's a great big huge isolation transformer, and this whole strip down here on my bench is connected to that. So anything that I'm working on gets plugged into that or this or that, and that gives us isolation. Okay, I know I talked about that on some of my early radio videos there, the importance of isolating, especially a hot chassis AM radio or something. Alright, moving along to the bench. If you go over here, my big soldering irons, you can see them, and hot glue gun, and then my 951 Hakko soldering station. You take it up off, it's got a switch on it, and it heats up really fast. When it beeps, it's ready. You put it back on, and it goes to sleep. And that keeps the tip. The tips last forever on these. I have an assortment of tips with the little tip holder. Up here is the dummy load that I just built, and you can see the big resistors with the heat sink and the little interface box with the ×1 and ×10 going out to my scope, and there's those coaxes that are going over to my scope here. A little MP3 player that I use for just to provide a signal. It's really a low output, but it does work. Okay, and an Iko, I think this is a 147A signal tracer, and it's been totally restored. Okay, and you had to make a probe out of PVC pipe for it, but it's the correct probe, electronically anyways. And miscellaneous chemicals, whatnot. And down here, a couple of drawers that keep my tools in. Another drawer for wires and jumper leads and things like that. Miscellaneous stuff. Crimpers and measuring tools and computer testing tools, whatever. A little semiconductor analyzer down here. And these two little clamps for holding the tripod for the videos. And I can put it in two different places. And the other thing, I can use this to hold my PC board holder, which is right up in here. See that, with the little clamps, and that goes into there, and it just holds your PC board while you're working on it. Let's see. Moving on along, when we get over to here, this is my little ham radio station. It's not anything near what a lot of people have. I do have a USB interface for digital modes. Made a little external speaker. I do have an automatic tuner, and it's going out to a 43-foot vertical antenna out in the yard, and that's going out there. And you can see my star grounding bus, which is using strap, going out to multiple rods driven into the ground outside, right out through the window there. There's actually a window behind this thing here. I have my main radio is an IC7410 by ICOM. I love this little radio. It works great. If I ever decide to relearn my Morse code, I do have a key, Vibraplex. But I'll be honest, I got my novice license in 6th grade many years ago, and I've kind of let that slip. I need to get back into CW once again. And here's a Hallicrafters S20R receiver with the meter, the S meter, and it's been totally restored. It is like mint, and it is unbelievable how sensitive this old thing is. It really works well. A power supply for my rig, and some books. And pretty much you have seen pretty much most of my shop. So this is where it all happens. I do also have a wood shop down in the back of the yard. It's a full size. I mean, I do a lot of woodworking, and I can build a lot of things down there. And maybe we'll go and check that out one of these days. But that's the nickel tour of the shop. There it is. Now, the next project we're going to work on is I'm going to design a small single-ended guitar amplifier. And we're going to talk about some of the differences between guitar amps and hi-fi amps. This is an old transformer. I've had it for years. I don't even know what it's off of. But we're going to measure it, and then we're going to try to match up the proper tube to it, and go over some things about how to do that. We're going to try to use all scrap parts. I'm going to try not to buy anything more than I have to. We're going to use an old organ speaker, 12-inch speaker out of an organ, like a Hammond organ. And I have some old power transformers we're going to dig through, and we're going to put this thing together. And I've made a little makeshift chassis down in the shop. It's still down the shop, and I'll bring that up. And should be fun. It's not going to be as long of a series as the other amp, but should be fun. So that's it for right now. Here's pretty much, this is it. And more to come later. Hope you enjoyed it. One last thing I thought I'd show you here is my little downstairs man cave stereo. I got a couple of Klipsch speakers, and I forget what model these are, but they're the ones with the copper drivers, 8-inch, dual 8-inch drivers, and the horn, of course, horn tweeter, mid-range tweeter, and that very beautiful SA8500 Pioneer amp, and the TX7500 tuner that we did the videos on, and the KX300 tape deck. And just out of lack of place for storage, my S40B that we just did the video on. This one's going to go up for sale, though. I'm going to put this online and sell it. I think it's a beautiful little receiver, but it's the same circuit as the S20, just an updated one. So I'm going to sell it because just too much stuff. So I thought I'd show you that as well. All right. And that's it.